So Maya's notebook is, I don't know how much of the plot you want to give away, but I think I can summarize that the main character is a very troubled young woman with a very difficult past who flees the United States to go live on a remote island off the coast of mainland Chile called Chiloé. And I'm wondering, where did the story and the characters come from?
At the time, all my grandchildren, my 4 grandchildren, and their friends, really I have 6 because I have 2 more that are like mine. They all were teenagers. And I saw the parents trying to protect them from all the dangers that they were exposed and all the horrible things that could happen to them. How can you protect them from all that? And as a grandmother, I was always very close to my grandchildren, saw them practically every day. So I was scared, especially with my youngest granddaughter, Nicole, who at 15 looked like Jennifer Lopez, but had the brain of an 8-year-old and a boyfriend from hell. Okay. So this is what happens to Maya. Maya, this gorgeous girl who is athletic and a good student, when the grandfather dies, she loses it. The grandmother goes into a depression, and she starts a spiral of petty theft, pot, alcohol, and then it gets worse and worse. Eventually she runs away from home and ends up recruited by gangsters in Las Vegas, where they are drug dealers and criminals. And the grandmother sends Maya to Chiloé, the southern part of Chile, where there's an archipelago with many, many islands, a big island and many small islands, where I researched and I found the perfect island. It's not paradise at all, but it's the island that she needs. A place where there's a small community of a few people who live off the land or off the sea, and they embrace her, but they teach her in the first week, she learns the first law of nature, the law of reciprocity, that you have to give as much as you take, which it had never occurred to her. And I say this because I see my grandchildren. They are totally entitled to everything they have. They don't think they have to give anything back. And so she learns that, and she gets involved with the community. She's disconnected from all the technology, because if she gets in the internet, they will find her. And so she's disconnected, and for the first time in her life, she has no earphones, no phone. She has time to be bored, to write a notebook. This is the notebook. So the story goes from what happened to her before that she's telling in the book, in the notebook, and what's happening in the island at that time.
So how did you first stumble upon Chiloé?
I knew the place, and I knew that it would be the perfect contrast with Vegas, a safe place to take her. And I also wanted to get back in touch with the Chilean roots, because there is a mystery in her family. The book has the structure of a crime novel, with suspense and is she going to be found by her enemies or not? What is going to happen to her? And there is a mystery in her family, and there is a mystery in the country. She goes to a country which is very different from what she was used to, where people don't talk about certain things. The scars and the wounds of the dictatorship are still there for many, many people, but people don't talk about it. And for young people, it's old history. It has nothing to do with them. It doesn't concern them at all. But I believe that as a people, we need to look at our past in order not to make the same mistakes. And this is what the Jewish people has done so well by keeping alive the Holocaust. And they have kept it alive. And I think that it is very important that we remember what we've done.
Reading the book, I thought that part of your mission was to be an educator.
No, please. No mission, no responsibility. I'm not accountable for anything here. And I don't try to deliver a message or to teach anything. I just tell what I know, where I have been, the experiences I have had.
Interesting. Because there's a lot of history that, as you were saying, people aren't really aware of, and you do go into that in some depth. And I think it's very, very important, as you say, for people to be aware of that, especially young people. And I also felt that Maya's a very important character. She descends into kind of depravity that's almost unimaginable to people. And it's important that we all are aware that there are people out there who are suffering
live that kinds
right
of
now.
lives, and it could be your kids, my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, we are not talking about homeless people only. It can happen to any kid. And all the part about addiction in the book that Maya suffers, I did not have to research it. I have lived it in my family. My 3 stepchildren are addicted. 2 of them have already died of drug-related causes. One of them died 4 weeks ago. He was 35 years old, and we thought he was in recovery. But the demon of addiction is lurking, you know? And when you think that everything is fine, it hits you again.
I was wondering, as I read the book, if it was very, very painful to you to write some of those scenes.
It was painful to write about Maya in some places. I don't go into specifics. For example, if I write about torture, I don't describe the torture.
Mm-hmm.
I create the atmosphere of fear, but I don't describe it because it's too painful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the other hand, if there's an erotic scene, I describe it to the detail. Because in that sense, I really want people to learn. Men to learn.
Right. I took notes on that scene.
Yeah, please.
I reread that scene many times because I wanted to.
You know, there is a new book that came out in Spanish called Amor, and it's all the sex and love scenes of my books put together. It's like an anthology of whatever. And my mother was horrified, absolutely horrified, because out of context, it sounds pretty bad. And it's very successful. People want to hear about that.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking New York Times bestseller list, probably. So I wanted to ask you, kind of more broadly speaking, what's the purpose of fiction for you? Why do you keep writing fiction?
Well, because I like to tell
propels you?
stories and I like to hear stories. I think that stories connect us. In a story, we find that another person has experienced what we have experienced, or we connect. I think that the first form of communication was probably music, rhythm, and then as soon as we learned to speak, it was storytelling. In ancient times, we couldn't write, but we could tell stories and pass knowledge from one generation to another by repeating the same stories that become myths. And they're the same myths everywhere. And it's the same idea of how the world was formed and how we come to be, who we are. So I think that that's the whole purpose of stories, connect us and create this sort of collective unconscious where we are all the same. We are all brothers and sisters.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's great. So you began life as a writer, I think writing nonfiction. Well, you were a journalist.
Well, it was fiction in my case. I was a lousy journalist.
Oh, okay.
So if I didn't have a story, I would make it up.
Excellent. That's a model we all should follow, I think. When you began really giving yourself to writing fiction, did a transformation occur in you as a writer? Was it liberating?
As a person.
As a person.
I think that when I wrote The House of the Spirits, I put down in those pages everything that mattered to me. The past, the country I had lost, my family, my grandfather, the stories he had told me, the wonderful creature that my grandmother was. Everything was in that book. It shows the world who I am, from where I come, what is my country, everything. Everything is contained there. So it centered me, it gave me a voice, and it gave me, I was 40 years old when I wrote the book. I felt that my life was a failure, that I was going nowhere. I was living in exile. My marriage was a disaster. My children were going to the university and leaving home. So there was, that feeling that, what am I going to do with the rest of my life, if there is a rest of my life? And then the House of the Spirits and writing just opened a door into another space. And I am another person.
That's great. Every time you begin a new book, does that door kind of open again?
With fear. with fear, because every book is a new adventure. I write very different books, and I've tackled everything, young adult, cookbooks, everything.
Has there been a time when the fear has actually sort of paralyzed you, when you haven't been able to write?
I don't think it was fear, I think it was sorrow. After my daughter died, I wrote a memoir called Paula, and then I went into what they call a writer's block. And then one day I was in a coffee shop, and Annie Lamott, a beloved writer, said, "How are you doing? I know about your daughter." And I said, "Well, not good. I can't write. I'm in a writer's block." And she said, "There is no such a thing as a writer's block. Your reservoirs are empty. Fill them up." And I went to India. In a trip to India, I filled them up.
Yeah.
Everything changed after that trip to India.
Right. Well, you actually write beautifully about that trip to India in the book that I edited called Better Than Fiction. You have an amazing story about. Could you tell everyone about that story and what the outcome was?
Well, I didn't want to go because I thought I can't deal with the poverty and with the mess. I just can't. Well, you come back from India, and what you bring back is the beauty. But I had an experience there that changed me. We were with a driver crossing Rajasthan. The roads were impossible, and it was hot. The car was the engine heated up, and the driver said, "I have to stop for a while." And there was an acacia tree in the back somewhere. Nothing else, no village, no well, nothing. And under the tree, like 5 or 6 women and children. And my friend Tabra and I walked toward them. We didn't have a common language, but at the beginning they were scared, and then curiosity was stronger than fear. And they started touching Tabra's hair. She had her hair tinted purple. And we had bought some bracelets in a market, some silver bracelets, a bunch of them. And the women were touching our bracelets. And so we took off the bracelets, gave them the bracelets. And we couldn't communicate, but we sort of touched. And then the driver honked, and we started walking to the car. And one of the women came running, and she gave me a little parcel. And I thought she was trying to give me something back for the bracelets. And I said, no, it's not necessary. No. And she insisted and put this parcel in my hands. And I sort of opened it. They were just rags. And I opened it, and there was a newborn baby inside. Newborn, I mean, it still had the umbilical cord. And I blessed the baby, kissed the baby. It smelled like nothing that I've ever smelled in a baby, like ash and earth and feces. And I tried to give the baby back, and she refused. She stepped back. And in that moment, the driver came running. And he grabbed the baby from my hands and gave it back to the mother, pushed me in the car, and we drove off. And when I realized what had happened, we were already driving away. And I said, "Why would that woman give me her baby?" And the driver said, "It's a girl. Who wants a girl?" And that was a moment in my life when I was pulled out of my own sorrow. I was only focusing on myself when there is so much to do in the world. There's so much grief, so much need. All the money that I had earned with Paula, the book, I had put in a separate account because I didn't want to touch it, thinking that one day I would do something to honor my daughter. And that was the moment when I realized that I could create a foundation to try to help little girls like her, like that little girl. And that little girl haunts me. She would be, if she's alive, 16 now, and 16 or 17. And she haunts me because I think I could have given her a life, maybe I could have taken her out of India, bring her with me. Of course, what everybody says is I was trying to replace my daughter. No, I don't think so. I think it just opened my eyes to the need in the world. So I have a foundation now that works with women and girls, empowering women and girls. You can Google my name, and you'll find it there if you want to know what we do.
You wrote a book called My Invented Country. And for those of us who are travelers and who would like to go to Chile, where would you recommend that we go? What are the must-see places, or what are the must-see things to get the essence of the...
Chile is a long and narrow strip of land. So you have all the climates and all the landscapes, and it's gorgeous. And the people are kind, and there are no ferocious animals or serpents or any of that. So it's a safe and wonderful country. Up in the north, we have the driest desert in the world, the driest climate in the world, where all the astronomical observatories are. And San Pedro de Atacama, in the Atacama Desert, is, according to my daughter-in-law, who has been all over the world, the best place where you can go. But you can also go to Patagonia or to all the regions of the lakes and the volcanoes in the south, which is beautiful. And Chiloé, of course.
Right.
Once you read my book, and please read it, you will want to go to Chiloé.
Do you think the people of Chiloé know that you've written the book?
Oh yeah, I was there 2 years ago. It has taken so long for the translation that it is a historical novel now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So have a lot of people gone to Chiloé because of the book?
I don't know, but I have been there after the book, and there are many people from the island and are in the book, real people.
Really?
With other names, but they are there, and they recognize themselves.
Huh.
For example, there is, my daughter-in-law and I were invited to a circle of women that gather on the full moon. And they gather in what they call El Ruco or La Ruca, which is like a kiva. And it's a sacred place, feminine place, where men don't go. Men have helped build it, but they don't go in. And so the women gather there. It's hot. It's not a sweat lodge, but it's hot, and it's wonderful. You're in the Pachamama, the Mother Earth. So we had a night there with my daughter-in-law, and I wrote it exactly as it was in the book. And all the women there send emails, and they communicate. It's wonderful.
Wow, so that's real.
Real, they're all real.
That's an amazing scene in the book.
Yeah.
I remember thinking this couldn't possibly be real.
Of course it's real.
Wow.
You think I could make that up? Well, I think we should go to questions.
Okay, we'll go to questions. In the middle there, that gentleman 2 seats in. Thank you.
Do you ever yearn or dream of going back to Chile to live there once more?
If I would go back to live in Chile, I have a foot there and a foot here, but my son, my grandchildren, my husband, my dogs, everything is here. And I love this country. This country has given me so much. It has given me an infinite space to create, privacy. I feel safe here. You live in terror with this paranoia of terrorism. This is a very safe place. You don't know what the rest of the world looks like. So I go to Chile because that's my roots and my language and the sense of humor and everything that I love. But I want to be here. And I hope that my ashes will end up here.
Yes.
Could you please tell us a little bit why did you write a book like the Island Under the Sea?
The Island Beneath the Sea.
Beneath the sea.
I wasn't planning to write that book at all. The Island Beneath the Sea is the story of the slave revolt in Haiti 200 years ago. I have no connection with that story. Why would I write about that? Now that the book has been written, I know what the book is about, but I didn't when I was writing it. It took me 4 years of research, and I got sick researching about slavery. One of my obsessions is the abuse of power. If any human being has absolute power and impunity is not accountable, we tend to commit atrocities. That's what the torturer does to the victim. That's what the abusive father does to the children or the wife. That's what the occupation forces do in a country that they have occupied. That when there is absolute power and impunity, we can become beasts. I'm very glad that I have never had that kind of power. What kind of person would I have been if I have been the wife of a plantation owner in Haiti in 1800? Would I be this person? Would I know the world as I know today? Would I feel for the slaves what I feel today? Probably not. probably I would be inserted in a cultural situation that it would seem completely natural to me that there would be slaves. Just as it is natural for my mother to have a housekeeper who lives in the house and works 18 hours a day. And she's like a daughter, but she's not a daughter, and she's working. Just the fact that she serves the table shocks me. But it's natural in Chile. That's the way it's done. So it all depends where we are culturally.
So Isabel, I'm going to ask you one last question. And
There was one person over there.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go to that
Yeah,
person,
that person,
and then I'll ask you a last question, if that's okay. Yeah.
I was inspired a few years ago when Michelle Bachelet was elected in Chile as the first female president, and moved to Chile and was very interested in the citizens there and how they were very proud of having a female president and what that meant. And I was wondering if you could reflect a little bit on that and women as leaders in Chile.
Well, women have been the pillars of the society in Chile always. It's a very patriarchal, macho society in appearance, but women are the pillars of the family and the community, and they have always been involved in all the social issues and in politics, but never to the point of electing a president until Michelle Bachelet was elected. And that changed everything, because now everything is possible for women. Michelle did a wonderful presidency. We had governments of what we call the concertación, that is a coalition of parties of the center and the left, for 20 years. Now we have a conservative government that came after Michelle Bachelet. Michelle nobody thought that she would ever be elected because she's a single mother, agnostic, socialist, and a woman. I mean, she didn't have a chance. And she left the presidency with 84 or 86% approval. Never in the history of Chile we have had a president with that kind of rating. And I think she's going to be our next president, most probably.
Okay.
Yeah, what's your question?
So, what is your dream?
My dream, my personal dream, to have long legs. Now, for the world, I have many dreams.
No. Well, I want to thank you, Isabel.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Well, thank you.
Very well. Thank you.